Our values and belief systems often start in the home and are developed and molded in a school setting. It is our hope that this setting mirrors our values. However, this year has shown me that we may be getting farther away from that reality unless we step up. I'm an educator here in Santa Barbara. I love teaching. I'm lucky to have found my passion in my career. It makes taking on a challenging year like this one much better. But to be honest, there is never a bad day in teaching, not even this one. Only tough moments. This year we asked a lot of our students. I have seen COVID regulations take a physical and psychological toll on students, and I have seen our education system inundated with politics. I'll say this now and I'll say it again. No matter what topic it is, children need to be taught how to think, not what to think. I was lucky enough to have students of all ages who definitely thought for themselves, which made for a very interesting year. When we started in an online format, as most schools did, we got to know each other as best we could. Zoom class was mentally draining. We could only teach a fraction of what the kids would normally learn in school due to technology and time constraints. We were also not there beside them to give direct feedback and support them with the tools they normally would have. We could not see all of their faces because half the time they turned off their screens. This creates a huge disconnect. It's ironic that we feel more disconnected in a digital age when we are supposedly more connected than we've ever been before. When we finally returned to in-person learning, the students arrived on campus in their masks, and I didn't recognize any of them. I had only ever known them over a Zoom screen without masks. Now I had to learn and get to know their eyes and their voices. It was extremely sad and disheartening. We had to learn a new way to communicate. It was like starting from day one, and it also meant rebuilding trust. On top of that, students were given an option to stay as an at-home learner. So teachers were asked to run 2 types of classrooms at the same time, an in-person learning environment, while the at-home learners would Zoom in. Not to mention, we have in place mask requirements, social distancing, cohorts, sanitizing, and hand washing. Did I mention we also fit in academics? So I watched as students worked extremely hard to adapt to these new changes, understanding that the rule was to adapt and be in person, or don't adapt and go home. In other words, the government put in place mandates closing schools, setting back students' education, and then put in place new rules to open schools stating, follow our rules or you won't be able to have a proper in-person education. It frustrated me to watch all of these restrictions put on children who are the least vulnerable to COVID and the least likely to spread it. Children are resilient, but they should not have to be. The masks, consistent promoting of social distancing and hand sanitizing has instilled a fear in children that they can get ill from breathing air. They have not learned about the basics of what an immune system is, how a virus spreads, or simply the vitamins that we get from our food to keep our body healthy. I watched a girl drop her mask on the playground and immediately break out crying, fearful that she would get COVID. This is what these restrictions are teaching our children. Children are required to wear masks as young as age 3. At this age, they do not have the mental maturity yet to think critically or to understand the implications these masks could have on their well-being. Take the temperature checks, for example. They use no-touch temperature devices and point them at a children's forehead. These no-touch devices are shaped like handguns. At the same time, children are growing accustomed to masked faces. When I was young, a masked face pointing a gun-shaped object at my forehead would elicit an instinct of fear. Children look to the adults in their life to make the decisions and to be their main advocates. In this case, adults should ask why. Why should 3-year-olds have to wear a mask? Where is the scientific evidence and data that shows that they should? Not only do masks have a psychological impact on children, they are absolutely gross. Masks only work if they are used correctly without air, meaning covering your nose and mouth and are changed appropriately. If you come on to any school campus, you will see why masks do not work. On a regular basis, I watch students sneeze into a mask and then continue to wear that mask all day. I also see children sucking on their masks, wearing them under their chins, on their wrists, in their mouths. They trade their masks, they cough in them, and they do not change them. That list does go on. So they continue to inhale their own germs, which will inevitably lead them to get sick. The tensions also rise more easily in classrooms, as students are restricted to core groups of people and don't have room to breathe. You know the expression, fish and people get old after 3 days? Imagine 8 months of the same people, in the same room, in the same lunch period, stuck in a mask, and constantly being told to stay 6 feet apart. Yeah, I'm not surprised that we saw arguments that rose to fistfights and students experiencing anxiety. Now, that's not to say that we didn't work hard every day to give students support and make learning fun. We did that too, and I think for the most part that we made the most of this year. Yeah! However, this is not what learning is supposed to look like, and we should not expect that this should be our new normal. Generally speaking, the government has never done a marketing campaign for a vaccine so vigorously. So, this is the reason enough for us to stop and ask why. Schools and school districts have begun to require an experimental vaccine as a condition of employment and/or send out surveys to collect employees' medical information on whether or not they've received the vaccine, to find out whether or not they received the vaccine and if they'll be flexible in the fall. Not only that, districts are advertising and promoting the experimental vaccines without adequate and proper transparency of all the facts and potential side effects. Because these vaccines are made available to the public under an emergency use authorization, it needs to make clear that these vaccines are voluntary. It is an educator's role to teach children how to think, not what to think. We should be encouraging students and families to get informed on these topics, be aware of their options, and to make the best choices for themselves. We should not be pushing them to make a specific health decision for their child. This past year had its ups and downs. I saw my students create projects, support one another, learn in new ways, struggle, cry, fight, love, and a lot more. Most of all, with all these challenges, I saw in them a strength and spirit and determination to thrive. This taught me that we are stronger than we know, and there truly is hope for our future. If you ever have any doubt in humanity or in search of some common sense, talk to a child. They see the world through a pure lens and will give you a straight answer. I have hope in how our kids and how we handle challenges. However, we should not let this become our new normal, nor should we try to retreat to what it was before. You look around, we are not alone in our beliefs. If we want to make a change, all we have to do is try.
Thank you, Paige.